Hi, welcome back into the Lawyer's Lounge. We did the complete series of Behind the Bar, where we talked about the criminal justice system from the crime to the final verdict and what goes beyond. So I figured we should do a transition where we bring in real people to illustrate some of the things that we talked about during the series. And I couldn't think of a better person to start the series off than Jean Pierre. See, you're going to get to know Jean. You're going to hear his story, his background, and how he carried the weight of the criminal justice system and being accused of something he didn't do. I'll give you a spoilers alert. His charges were dismissed earlier this year because he was not guilty of anything. But he still had to go through the process over 2 years of waiting and wondering what was going to happen. So this will be an episode that will touch you deeply and hopefully inspire you and other people who may be going through similar situations. So sit back and relax and enjoy this episode of the Lawyer's Lounge. I'm attorney Keith Johnson. All right, welcome in Jean Pierre. John, you are one of my favorite clients. Obviously, we have a history together, and I knew you were different from the first time that I met you at the Aiken County Jail, unfortunately. But before we get to that story, I want to let the audience know a little bit about you. So where's home for you?
Well, I'm originally born and raised in Chicago, Illinois. I've been in the Atlanta area, Covington, Georgia, and I ended up moving to the South Carolina, Augusta area back in 2020 during the pandemic.
Okay, and not only are you well spoken, but you're extremely smart. You graduated honors summa cum laude from Savannah State University in 2020 in business administration, I believe, and accounting.
Yes, sir. I got my Bachelor's of Business Administration from the College of Business Administration at Savannah State University, where I did graduate summa cum laude of my class of 2020. Yes, sir.
Yeah, so I mean, we're talking about somebody who's extremely smart, driven and focused, and you had dreams and goals for yourself, as evidenced by your great academic work at Savannah State. Tell me, what motivated you to pursue your education at such a high level?
Well, I always been a achiever in school, so actually the influences around me, where I gave college a shot. I felt like let me take my God-given blessings and put them to use. So I went to the Savannah State University, and I end up meeting some great people there, mentors and colleagues, and um, I chose accounting because I figured it would work for me professionally and personally.
Okay.
So that was my decision making on choosing to take
All
up
right.
accounting.
So that means that you're pretty good with numbers then, man, because I tell you to go into accounting, not only do you have to be familiar with numbers, but I feel like you got to like numbers. Every time I go talk to my CPA, I come out with a headache, man. I'm like, I don't know how you do this, man, but God bless you because as a business owner, you need somebody who is there to look out for you and watch your back and know those kind of things, man. So, was that what you always wanted to be growing up?
Actually, no, man. I actually want to be a lawyer.
All right, home
Starting
team.
off, so just a quick little story.
Yeah.
When I met my mentor back in my freshman year at Savannah State University in my accounting principles classes, because I went there, I was undecided. I looked at all the majors, and I chose accounting again because I felt like it could work for me professionally and personally. I learned either way, and in that first year, you really learn that accounting does deal with a lot of numbers, but it's not really the numbers; it's the language of business. So when you're looking at it from an accounting perspective, that's the language of business. So it's going to touch on all ends of the business administration process.
Okay. All right. And so, were you at the time of your arrest? Had you already have done like um, all the internships and gotten work history at the time that kind of things just got turned upside down for you?
Uh, yes, sir. Actually, I came out. I had two prior internships with one of the top firms internationally, and I ended up taking up an offer with a governmental agency down here in South Carolina, where I started off as an intern, and I ended up moving up to a associate. So at that time, I was an associate financial
Mhm.
analyst.
I mean, so like you had a life that was, full of high achievements, but also goals for yourself going forward. I mean, you were putting yourself in these rooms and these positions to succeed. I mean, you had never been in trouble before, right?
Exactly. I was actually because I'm an expiring certified public accountant. So right now I'm even, taking up the prep courses with Becker. But at the time I was just focusing on getting the work experience, versus the masters or sitting for the CPA exam. I was just focused on getting the years of experience under my belt.
And so, I guess let's just kind of get into it. Let's set the scene. It's December, Christmas Day of 2023. You're in town, like a lot of people are, or I guess not just in town because you moved here. You were at a family member's house
Yes, sir.
and celebrating the Christmas holiday like people do around the world. And at some point in time, there is a dispute that doesn't even involve you, right?
Exactly.
And you didn't have a problem with anybody. You're just a visitor, and
Yes, sir.
there's a dispute that involves another family member. And I guess let's just kind of take it from there.
Well, it was an unfortunate situation, and basically, I guess emotions were too much involved where I tried to kind of just be a bystander, then got kind of pulled into it. Tried everything I could to try to just walk away from the
Yeah.
situation. And then as things unfolded, it became a life threatening situation. So I just had to go accordingly with that and make sure that I'll be able to make it home. Because at the time, I had a 3-month-old daughter. So she was just born in October.
You were a new father when this happened.
Yes, sir.
Wow. And so essentially, there was someone who was upset with a family member of yours. They pulled up there. There was a verbal dispute. For lack of a better term, I would explain it like you were trying to diffuse it, and this person now turned their anger towards you and approached you in a threatening way while clutching as though they had a gun. And as the police report and all the witness statements showed, you were actually trying to say, "Hey, listen, I don't want any part of this. You're backing up. Don't move any forward. Things like that." And that didn't happen. And you acted in self-defense, and that was our um, argument the whole time. And
Yes,
it
sir.
turned out to prevail. But before we even get to that point, after you had to fire in self defense, because it is a split second decision, what was the first thought that you had in your mind?
Um, Really, I thought about my daughter because I was anticipating getting with her after visiting family, and you know the first thing that came to my mind is like my daughter,
Yeah,
you know.
because you
So
might not be able to see her
you know,
again.
well, that and I just want them to be aware that I was in a situation where I wouldn't be available, at that time because I always had the faith that like that I did what was necessary, you know. So just making sure that I was informing everyone, making sure that the paramedics was on their way and things like that.
Yeah, so you actually stayed at the scene. You didn't leave, and I always say this in when I'm talking to to clients and things like that. It makes the case easier to defend when a person doesn't run afterwards because I can make the argument that they're not running from anything because they didn't do anything wrong to run from it, and they want to explain to the police what happened, and that's exactly what happened in your situation. Were there ever any thoughts that you just didn't trust that the police were going to listen to what you had to say?
I mean, well, you always, taught to, keep your constitutional rights. So I stayed on the scene because, I didn't feel as if I did anything wrong. And I just wanted to be there to, be able to say that, hey, I'm here. Yes, I'm the person of interest, but I'm not the aggressor in this
Yeah,
situation.
you weren't the at fault party, like we like to say in court. And that has to take some courage as well, because I always say, human nature is to kind of flee the scene, whether you are innocent or not, because it's a scary situation, especially for somebody who has never been in trouble, honor graduate from college, working at prestigious um, institutions, government and private sector, and now you find yourself, um, you know, being detained. And were you able to like make any phone calls to let people know what was going on, or did everything happen so quickly and now you don't really have a way to quickly talk to people and let them know what's going on?
Well, I didn't necessarily get the opportunity to, make calls to, the one call I did make was to make sure that the mother of my child knew that I had a situation going on, so I wouldn't be able to join them for Christmas. But
Yeah.
other than that, I waited on the first responders,
Hmm.
and we went about it that way.
Yeah. And so, man, like even in the situation, you still was thinking about your daughter, trying to communicate, properly, and let everybody know that you weren't standing them up for Christmas. Let me pause right there. Does it ever feel like it was a dream? Like now that we're years past it?
Uh, Dream and a nightmare, I would say.
Yeah.
Just given the severity of the situation, so it feels unreal, but then you pinch yourself and you know that it's reality, and going through the process, was the uh, I would say intense part.
Hmm.
So yeah, I would say with dream and a nightmare. I would say both.
So, going back to that day, at a certain point in time, reality must have hit that I'm about to be charged with this. Um, did you know that immediately, or like when did that part sink in? That man, they're not gonna just let me go home.
I would say after I was detained and took into the interrogation room, where I invoked my rights, and the prosecutor just told me out. Well, not the prosecutor, but the
The,
uh,
the
DEA,
investigators.
the
Hmm.
investigator, just told me outright, I'm going to charge you with such and such.
Yeah,
So she told me that she charged me with manslaughter.
yeah,
Because I decided that I wanted a lawyer present. Wow, if I had to give a statement.
yeah. So let's pause right there. So you were transported to the sheriff's office or the local jail?
Uh, First we went from the scene to, I guess, the sheriff office where they do like interrogations and things, and
Yeah,
then from there we went
went
to
to the
the
jail.
detention center.
Okay. And so you invoked your Fifth Amendment right. Remember, we talked about that, your right to remain silent. John invoked that right, even though it was difficult because you feel pressure. You feel like even if they don't say it, you feel like if I talk, maybe it'll make it a little bit better. But you invoke your right to remain silent. How do you remember how long you were kind of waiting in that room before they came to talk to you? Because I know in some instances, I think it's a tactic. I know it's a tactic where sometimes they'll have the room really cold, almost unbearably cold, or they'll have you sitting there for an hour or two before they even walk in. Tell me what your recollection was.
From what I can remember, went from the deputy's car to up these long stairs into the room. I think I might have waited maybe 15 to 20 minutes before they
Okay.
came in. the investigator asked me, she told me, hey, want to ask you some questions. Is it okay if I record? I told her yes, it's fine if you record, but I told her I already invoked my Fifth Amendment right,
Good.
and I want a lawyer present
That's
while
right.
I make a statement.
That's right.
And immediately she just told me, well, hey, I'm going to charge you with manslaughter.
And I remember seeing your case file the first time, and I always go to the portion where I can see whether my client made a statement or not. And I was pleased that you invoked your right to remain silent. Because just like I tell people, you have to know your rights and you have to stand on your rights. And if you don't do that, then at that point in time, the lawyer inherits things that are going to now be part of the case that we can't get back, that we cannot unwind. So I did get a case where my client stayed at the scene. So you helped me help you. You stayed at the scene. You behaved in a way indicative of your personality. And ultimately, I think all those things work together. So after you invoke your right to remain silent, you're told that you're going to be arrested. Did you at any point in time feel like, okay, well, maybe I should talk now that they told me that, I changed my mind, maybe I should say something? Did you ever have that thought or, that pressure?
Well, even at the scene, when dealing with the officers and at the interrogation room, when dealing with the investigator, I made sure that they knew that I understood that they had a job to do, but I had a job to protect my rights as well. So, I was never faint-hearted about it, because I actually believe that I didn't do anything wrong. So, I was just gonna let them to do their investigation and see the ending results of it,
Absolutely,
see
man.
it through.
So you had faith from the very beginning, John,
Yes, sir.
and that's a testament to who you are as a person. And so you are handcuffed, right, and taken to the jail. First time you ever been in the jail.
Yes, sir.
What was going through your mind then?
Um, Mostly what's to come next,
Yeah.
because never being in that situation, I don't really know what to expect.
And like, how old are you at this time?
At the time, I'm 26.
Okay.
Yep. So I'm 26 years old. I'm a fresh father, and I'm making a trip to a detention center where I don't know the ins and outs or even anybody there. So
Yeah.
like, because given that I'm from Chicago originally and not from South Carolina, I'm walking into a risky situation with no prior knowledge. So
Absolutely. And you've been charged with voluntary manslaughter, one of the more serious crimes that you could be charged with.
yes, sir.
And so we talked about the intake process in our series, behind the scenes of the justice system. And part of it is like the fingerprinting and the mugshot and changing out your clothes and just all those things that people may not think about. I think it's meant to kind of show you who's boss and to let you know where you are, that, things are not uh, at your beck and call. You know what I mean? Was that like the first dose of like reality that, whoa, this may not be a quick fix?
Yeah, when you first get in, before you even enter the holding part of the jail, make you strip and change out. Um, After that, you get the fingerprints and the mug shot. You go up to the desk and fill out basically a questionnaire for like your personal information, like next of kin, um,
Hmm.
things like that. Education background, work
Yeah.
history. So it's
I'm sure they hadn't seen a lot of summa cum laudes roll through Aiken County Jail, man. So I know that was like, what? Not that you would put that on there, but your educational background was unique.
yes, sir.
Yeah. Were you in like the holding cell for a long period of time, or do you go directly to the floor and the floor is where the other inmates are, general population, where you have cells, but you also have like a common area?
So I think I might have stayed in the intake holding facility maybe an hour or two, where I was
Okay.
able to, I was able to use the phone then and reach out to my family and just let them know that everything's gonna be all right.
What was that like, John?
It was hard.
Walk me through that. Like, what'd you tell them?
Um,
Hey, it's Christmas Day. I'm in jail. Don't worry about me.
in so many words, it was more so, hey, I'm here at the jail. I'm gonna go through the process, So whenever I do get a chance, I'll be calling back, and then just trying to figure out what I can do from behind the wall. So which wasn't much, but just letting them hear my voice and letting them know that hey, I'm all right.
Mhm,
So
mhm. And do you remember who that first call was to?
um, my first call was probably to the mother of my child, and then my mother immediately after.
Okay.
Because it wasn't like charge call. It was you just pick up the phone and call out. So I was just calling the women of my life to let them know that I'm
Yeah.
all right and just be patient and bear with me.
Absolutely, man. You still kept a cool head, even in that situation. Um, Let me ask you this, man. Just to lighten things for just a second. I always say I don't know that many people's numbers by heart. So if I get arrested, I might have a little bit of a time trying to remember these phone numbers. Did you know the numbers by heart? And if you didn't, were you allowed to go into your phone and get numbers?
Well, my phone was confiscated by the
Yeah.
investigators at the
Hmm.
sheriff's office. So fortunately for me, I know those two numbers by heart. So
Yeah.
it was
But
that
if you
was
didn't, you'd have been in a little bit of a situation, at least for the time being.
yes, sir.
Man, yeah. What's the first time that you thought about, I need to get a lawyer? I mean, you're a smart guy. You understand how it works probably more than most people. But I'm always curious to know at what point in the process do people think about, I need help?
Well, I wasn't. I was served a warrant the next morning. So Christmas Day had passed that morning. Went to the I guess what you would call it wasn't really a bond hearing, but it's where you can possibly get a bond
The
or
initial
not.
appearance.
Yeah, the initial appearance,
Yeah.
where I was told by the preceding judge that I was a threat to the community. Asked me
Man.
that I work, and at the time I said yes.
Okay.
Not knowing that unfortunately, with the process and the timing of the process, that I would eventually not have a job.
Because you
Um,
lost your job because of
so I
this.
was denied the right to a public defender outright at the initial appearance because
Because
I had a job.
because you said that you
Yes,
had a
sir.
job. Um,
So at that point, I reached out to my family to let them know, hey, I think I'm gonna need a lawyer.
yeah. Because you had never been in a situation where you had to think about, should I get a public defender? Should I hire somebody from a law firm? It was just kind of like probably like a dream and a nightmare, just like you said. And so
Exactly.
at that initial court appearance, I mean, you were there, you're by yourself because you don't have a lawyer, right?
Exactly.
And you're hearing these allegations against you. And
Exactly.
you don't really have an opportunity to kind of advocate and tell your side of the story because it's not that kind of situation at that
Exactly.
point, right? And so once you notified your family that you're not going to be appointed a lawyer, um, did you know who the good lawyers were? Did you know, like, were people trying to give you advice behind the walls, who to hire? Like, were you involved in that process at all?
I didn't really include anyone in that was incarcerated with me on like my legal standards or anything. I kind of reached out to family and we had the decision to make. It was
Yeah,
either Keith Johnson or find somebody else. And I had heard of you before, so I said I think I'm gonna go with Keith Johnson.
yeah.
So
Well, um, so from my vantage point, I remember getting that call, and we get a lot of calls, and it just is what it is. But they all don't stick out in my mind. This one did for a few reasons because I remember my assistant who takes the intake calls telling me that this happened like Christmas Day.
Yes, sir.
And I was like, Christmas Day? That's just kind of rare. And then she told me a little bit about you and that you were, working and not just working, but working at a high level in your background. And so I immediately kind of knew that something didn't add up. And then when I met with your family, I was able to get a very, very clear picture on who they believed you were. And so um, when when you narrowed down who you wanted to hire as a lawyer, I think I was hired before I met you.
Yes, sir.
I think we had already done the contract and all that business stuff before I met you. So I mean, it's kind of humbling, John. I mean, you had a belief that I could help you before we had even had a conversation before.
Yes, sir.
Um, uh, what what was it like to, at that point in time, try to put your trust in the process? Obviously, a higher power, but a lawyer that you hadn't met before. Tell the listeners about that.
It was really like a leap of faith, to be honest. I had heard good things about you, so that was a plus for me. But I had wanted to meet you in person. So when I finally started hearing that, hey, Keith's gonna come down and see you, he's gonna come down and talk to you, and then the wait felt like forever. It,
Hmm.
it did. But it was fairly quick. But when we did meet and our first conversation, when we just kind of telling each other, hey, okay, I'm appointed to you, and then you want to hear about the situation, and the first, I remember the first thing you told me was, man, be patient with me. I'm gonna get you out of here. And that was on both sides. I believe, because me as your client and then you as the attorney, we got to both believe in each other.
Hmm.
And for us to have
Absolutely.
that immediate connection, that was a bit of a relief. In a sticky situation like that, it was a good feeling. I had a good feeling about you. So like I had my faith in myself. I had my faith in you as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember that meeting as well. And I remember leaving the meeting like, I got to help this guy. Like, I got to help this guy, because I just knew that you were being honest with me and you just did not belong in that situation. And I'm not saying that people belong in bad situations, but when you have represented thousands of people, which thank God I have at this point in my career, I can tell somebody who is not about this kind of life, not trying to wake up in the morning trying to hurt somebody. And so I really felt like if this was a case where it deserved my full effort and even more than that. And I'm gonna be honest, right? Like I wasn't able to get you out immediately. Let's talk about that. I mean, it took what, like four months to get you out, I think.
5 going on 6.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
closer to 6 than 5. But um
Tell me what that was like being in there for that amount of time, because at that point you've lost your job.
yes, sir.
All right. Walk us through what it was like as you were waiting.
Man, the wait is like, like but it teaches you something. It teaches you patience,
Okay.
like it really does. I took the opportunity to read the Bible, like so I had never I've always been church going individual, but I had never like read the Bible from cover to cover.
So
So
they had some available, or did somebody send you one?
where they had some available as requested. You had
Okay.
to request them. So after being there, after a while, I finally put in a request, and I got a Bible, and I decided to start up my own little Bible study. So the
I didn't
past
know that.
time,
Okay.
that's what I was doing. I was sitting in the cell 22 and 2, so 22 hours in the cell, 2 hours out, if we get the 2 hours out, and
Let's let's just break that down for a second, because people might not have caught that. So you were in the cell out of 24 hours a day. You were in the cell for 22 of those hours,
yes, sir.
and you got 2 hours of rec time, and in that 2 hours you could make a phone call, You could take a shower. You could walk around the rec yard.
Yes, sir.
Is that pretty accurate?
Yes, sir.
Did you have a cellmate?
4. Well, 3. It was 4 of us.
You had 3 other cellmates.
Yes, sir.
So you are in a cell
Jam packed.
for 22 hours with 3 other men,
Yes, sir.
right? And if you got to use the bathroom, you use it in the cell,
Yes, sir.
right? And I'm not trying to be, too graphic here, but you lose all of your privacy immediately,
Yes.
right? I mean, you go from going to visit family Christmas time, about to go see your baby girl, to now this is your reality, and it didn't just end in a couple days, almost 6 months.
Yes, sir.
Was there ever a time where you felt like you were a fish out of water?
Most of the time.
Yeah.
You know, it was pretty uncomfortable. So it's a situation where you got to kind of you learn as you go. You learn to deal with things. You learn to kind of accept your current situation for what it is. And I feel like keeping your faith is what can get you through those type of difficult situations. Had even like you're in a place where everybody doesn't even take hygiene seriously, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
You're in close proximity to people who don't smell the best.
yeah. And then on top of that, you're in not the best facilities where, this has been like you can look at it and tell like this place has been, filthy for years, where I had to learn the grievances process of getting on the kiosk and putting in grievances because it was mold in the room, and we're sleeping in here, eating in here,
Yeah,
and
man.
it's mold. So every day waking up and getting on the kiosks to report it to I guess the proper authorities.
Did they fix it?
They had someone come in and spray, and then they just painted over it.
Yeah, bro. Yeah.
So
yeah. No, they didn't fix it, man. They
yeah,
didn't fix it.
so
And that's been my general take on a lot of the facilities here. Just, they're just not in the best shape, and it's kind of like out of sight, out of mind,
Exactly.
for the general public. And then you have some people who think that, well, you in jail, so whatever.
And that was probably one of the hardest pills to swallow. When you got the correctional officers treating and talking to you any type of way because they figure, hey, you're in jail already, so
Yeah.
about to basically treat you like the bottom of the earth,
Yeah, man.
And I even had to tell one correctional officer, man, I'm innocent and I'm not gonna be in here forever. I'm a human like you're a human.
Yeah.
And for the most part, they don't take that serious. They don't look at you as a human. It most so feel like they say innocent till proven guilty.
It's the opposite,
It
bro.
feels like guilty till proven
Yeah.
innocent.
Yeah. Yeah. They're like, well, what'd you do? Type of situation.
Yeah.
Because they get jaded by the system. But did you ever lose hope and like kind of your positive mindset? I mean, because you are human, man. And
Yes,
you
sir.
are looking at decades in prison, and you're seeing people coming and going from court and maybe not getting the best outcome,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Couple of situations where I seen guys, take some 0 to 50 pleas and things like that. Young guys too, younger than me. So I'm 25. These guys, 18, 19 years old.
And they're getting
And
years and decades.
exactly. And it was I wouldn't say losing hope. I say get a little frustrated.
Yeah.
Like when you hear like, all right, so court's coming up this day, and then you're not on that roll call.
Yeah.
So you don't really
Yeah.
know like what's going
Yeah.
on. Even when you're reaching out to family, they want you to, be in good spirits, and they're not filling you in on everything to the T. So like it was just like a big part of me was like, like how much longer can you put up with it?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but it was always, I always had faith. I would stick to having faith in God, like
Yeah.
putting it in God's hands, make sure that I prayed every night, make sure that I stayed on my studies, make sure that I didn't get into the nitting picking that's around me, the
Yeah.
negative energies that's around you. You got to kind of protect your energy. You know,
Because like it's a whole different world behind those walls.
yeah, it's a
Like
different world.
it's
Seriously.
like jail politics. It's like people owing debts. Is like phone usage. Like just give us a little bit of a window into what you saw.
Man, fortunately for me, I didn't have many problems with phones on my rec, but I seen other recs where guys weren't even getting on the phone to call out to their family at all. It was,
Were they
you know,
not able to?
yeah,
Yeah.
so many people, or just not able to. Like so that was a big eye opener to see. Like even when you're in here, it's like it's no set in stone process.
Yeah.
Things change every day. Emotions are involved there. You got people coming in and out. You got people coming from the general population to lockdown. Because I was in lockdown, given the severity of the charge, you got to start off in lockdown. So you
Uh-huh.
don't start off in general population.
Okay.
So they move you from basically the intake pod, A pod, to you go see the counselor, and then they tell you which housing unit you're going to. So when you got high charges, you go to the C pod, which
Yeah.
is lockup pod.
Yeah.
So, and then you got to make it from the lockup pod to general population.
Yeah.
So you see guys coming from general population to lockup, or you see guys going from lockup to general
Yeah.
population.
Just constant movement.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so it took us a little bit of time to get you out. Um, was that your first bond hearing when I got you out? Did we have to go twice? I don't remember.
I think that was my first bond hearing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the first bond hearing.
Yeah.
Came what, 4 months,
Yeah.
and then even after the bond hearing, the bond is set. Still had to wait to see the judge at the actual detention center.
It was a process.
Even got the paperwork, and then they said, "Well, that's the wrong paperwork."
Yeah.
And then I got the new paperwork was exactly the same as the old paperwork.
Yeah.
So just another hold on me. So
Yeah. They gave us a hard time trying to get you out, but
yeah,
let's rewind back to that bond hearing because we did talk about that first court appearance and the bond hearing and what goes into it. Because at this point, you and I have met a few times, and I have kind of heard from you about what you said, and we have the discovery in the case, so we know what the police report says.
yes, sir.
And we know that this is our shot at bond. And I never promised an outcome, but I remember being confident
Yes, sir.
that we would get bond. And the other side didn't agree to bond. They opposed bond, from
Exactly.
what I recall. They said you were a threat to the community and that you should stay in custody while your case is pending. What was that feeling like that night before you got the bond hearing coming up? I mean, what were the things that were
Anxious.
going through your mind?
Anxious.
Yeah.
I had spent many, many, many nights. Sometimes you can sleep, sometimes you can't. And when I did used to get sleep, I used to dream about freedom. Like my dreams would feel so real that like I'm in the real world, and then I'll wake up to white walls, and that
Mhm.
was like it was discouraging at times, but for the most part, it was like like day by day, I put that in my head, one day at a time, and see it through.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And so when the judge said that you're gonna get bond, I think they said it at 60,000.
yes, sir.
That sounds about right. I was actually looking at the old bond order in preparation when you got it in April of 2024, almost May of 2024. Um, when you got back out, did you feel like you had to start over, or did you feel like you were able to pick back up even 5+ months after?
Um,
Because at this point, the case is not over. You
exactly,
just have bond.
exactly.
Yeah.
It was basically a start over for me.
Uh huh.
It was like getting just re familiar with society, trying to find a job, which
What kind of job were you able to find when you first got out, or like what was your process like?
about 6 to 8 months after being on bond, I was given the opportunity to work as a cash office clerk. So, that's what I ended up taking up. It was hard to find a job, being on bond and the charges against you.
Would
So
people ask you about it during the job interview process, or did you feel like you had to disclose this just to get it out there?
it's a bit of both. So, when you filling out the applications and they asking you, and then, like just I like to be transparent. So, I'm sitting for an interview and then, okay, this gap in your work history, what's the gap about? And then I have to,
Yeah,
disclose the information while still being discreet because it's an open case.
sure.
So that was, I think that was a lot. It was discouraging as well,
Yeah.
because, like you got to hope that the employer's going to take a leap of faith on you.
hmm
So,
Because that's what it is, because they don't know you. They know your resume and your academics were great, and you had a good work history for a young man, but you also are out on bond for voluntary manslaughter,
exactly.
and they're trying to reconcile these two things. And a lot of times, employers are not going to take a risk because they don't want to be responsible if
Exactly.
something happens and now you're their employee. Were you finding that you were applying to jobs that were maybe below things that you would have applied for before the situation, or were you going in line with your normal job industry and just those doors were just not opening at the time?
A bit of both.
Okay.
So I would apply to jobs in my career career path,
Yeah.
and because I tried to stick as close to home as possible,
Mm-hmm.
but I also start to see that, hey, maybe those doors not gonna open right now while this situation is going on. So you need to do something else. So I start to apply to basically any and every job that had an opening, and then just call sometimes to check on the application status. Got interviews, but nothing really panned out. Um, but it was a learning process, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Really a really big learning process.
Um, what do people not understand about the justice system from your opinion now going through it?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
I think what I would tell people to realize is that we said earlier, it's more so guilty until proven innocent. Like it's more so having patience, and understanding your own situation. Like I hired you as my attorney, but I had to also do my own homework, and look at the laws and have understanding of the laws and things of that nature. So I would say to be informed, to I made a commitment to be a lifetime learner. So, and that was a learning experience for me. It wasn't a situation I want to put myself in, but it was a situation that I had to take head on. And I had to learn from it, where I end up learning more about the laws myself, and,
Yeah.
and I think at the same time, if you're going through something, lean on God and it'll bring you closer to God, because then you get more time to reflect, you know what I'm saying, and see, take a step back and into reality,
Yeah.
and see that things might not also always look appeasing to the eyes, but
Yeah.
it's up to you to, figure out your destination. Like, don't lose hope on your destination. Just, continue to learn and eat up at that information and that knowledge,
Yeah.
And one thing I would like to touch on too is the food
Yeah. Let's
and that
talk about it.
process, man, is, excuse me, but it's something that I wouldn't even give to an animal,
Yeah.
like
The,
seriously.
the stuff that you're fed in these facilities.
Exactly. And then you're
Give us an example. I mean, let's illustrate it.
I mean, I don't think
Some of the
anything
meat
was
always looks
it doesn't look real.
suspect to
It
me.
doesn't
I don't know if
look
it's
real.
bologna, salami, turkey. It just doesn't look like anything that should be served to anybody.
Exactly. And then in the pod that I was in, you'll see the trays come in and they'll sit out there for an hour or two. So by the time you get it, it's cold as a brick, So
Yeah. Yeah.
it was like, then you're gonna be spending money if you're fortunate enough to get commissary,
Yeah.
because you got people in there that's not getting commissary,
Yeah. Because
Um,
somebody has to put money on your account in order for you to be able to buy anything within the facility,
Yep, and you're
like the
buying junk.
snacks
Yep.
and the ramen noodles and the honey buns and all those things that pack on, calories and sodium and all this stuff.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, yeah.
So that was a big adjustment for me. The food,
Did you lose weight? Did you gain weight? What?
I think I gained a good bit of weight. Because it wasn't much for me to do other than 22 hours in the cell. You're gonna be eating a lot. I tried to read as much as I could.
Yeah.
And then every time I would get on rec, I would try to make because we got the phones would be in a rotation. So you try to get on the phone, take a quick shower so you can be able to make another phone call.
Yeah.
Might go outside on the rec yard and do a little bit of exercise and just to keep yourself mentally and physically fit.
Yeah, because you can go crazy in that cell, man. You
Yeah.
can go crazy in that.
And unfortunately, in my 5 to 6 months, 2 people died in the same unit that I was in.
Wow.
So I was able to see a lot of different things in a short span of time. Where I ended up catching COVID. And I
Yeah.
hadn't caught COVID in 2020 or 2021 when
And
it
you
was
caught it
when
back
it was,
in 24.
and I caught it while in jail.
Yeah.
So it was that was crazy situation
Because just
for
a
me.
close proximity, and if one person got it, it can get rampant, and it's really not much you can do about it.
Yeah, so it's like poor screening, because
Yeah.
if I'm in a cell with another individual, we've been in a cell two months together, and we haven't been sick, but then we get a third and a fourth individual in
Yeah.
the cell, and then all of a sudden the whole cell is sick. I feel like it was no screening done in the
Absolutely.
intake,
Absolutely.
for them to, and then just put them in there. I even had a guy who had a medical condition was in the cell with us, and I felt like he shouldn't even been in that pod with his medical condition.
Yeah.
So it's like just throwing us all
All together.
in a room
Just
and
figure it
like
out.
figure it out.
Yeah. So while you're out and you finally get a job 8 months after, at some point, I remember calling you and asking for a copy of your resume.
Yes, sir.
And that's because I was talking to the prosecutor about the case we had, and you had a very good prosecutor, Miss Hermione Morgan. She's a seasoned prosecutor, came down from the D.C. area back home to South Carolina, and she takes a hard look at cases. Because from a prosecutor perspective, it's difficult to just make a tough call on a homicide case and say, listen to the family, I'm sorry your loved one is no longer here with us, but this other young man did not commit a crime, and here's why. Those are very difficult situations. But at a certain point in time, I was able to highlight who you were as a person. Now, who you are as a person can't get you out of a crime if you are guilty.
Exactly.
But when you have questionable facts, you have a young man who stayed on the scene, you have the weapon right there in the car because you placed it right there. You didn't try to hide it or throw it away or do anything like that. And then you have the personal background. It was just God working in your favor. And so you were blessed, but you were easier for me to defend than most people because of the person that you are. Do you recall where you were when I called you and told you that I had gotten your case dismissed?
I was just leaving my mom's house. I was in the car, I was driving down the highway, and I remember you called and you said, "Hey, need to have a quick conversation. Is now a good time?" And I said, "Well, I'm driving, but just lay it on me,
Yeah, that's
'cause
exactly what you
I
said.
didn't know what to expect, if it was good news or bad news, but I
Yeah,
knew that I had been waiting on some type of update." And
yeah,
you said, "Well, I didn't want to update you too quick. I wanted to make sure. I wanted to be sure." And you told me, and at that point, I had wished I had pulled over because there was a lot of emotions involved. After 2 years and 2.5 years almost, just waiting and dealing with this. It was a total setback for me.
yeah.
So
I remember I think I asked you, are you sitting down?
yeah, I was like, yeah, I'm driving, so I'm sitting down when I'm driving.
Yeah,
And that was a bit of it was a relief for me but it was like now I got to get back to even the other work, of getting my life back onto the path I was going,
Yeah.
So because it was a big mystery,
Yeah.
for me. Like you didn't really know what to expect.
Yeah.
So I remember that call though, and
Yeah.
yeah, and after that I couldn't even call and let nobody else know because I just had to take like an
You
hour to myself
you had to
just
take it
to
in.
take it all in,
Yeah.
and
Who was that first call to after it settled within you?
the first call was to my mom.
Yeah.
I called my mom, and then shortly after, I called the mother of my child and let her know. And then after that, I was like, I'll let everybody else know as time goes. But I,
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure they know. And I
Those
called my
yeah.
aunt.
Those same two that you called when you first got in trouble.
Yeah,
It came full circle because they had always stood by your side.
yep. And I remember I called my mentor. So I called about 3 or 4 people, after I
Yeah.
heard the news.
I'm sure there was some hugs, some tears, all kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, I was by myself, so it wasn't any hugs just yet.
Yeah.
But it was a lot of I could hear them on the other side of the phone,
Yeah.
and their emotions were high.
Yeah.
And I just want to take that little bit of time to let them know that that part is past us. The actual waiting is
Yeah.
past us, but now it's
Yeah.
got to get back to what I was doing to start off with.
Yeah.
So
So let's kind of uh, transition and end it kind of on what the future holds for you going forward, and what are your takeaways from this ordeal that was 2.5 years in the making in your life at a very pivotal point in your life.
So the future for me is gonna behold me sitting for the CPA exam, the Certified Public Accounting exam,
Yes,
and
sir.
go ahead and get my license, um, because that was my outright career goal. Being a CPA, having an accounting degree is good, but being a CPA is that's the top of the ladder that you want to get to. So right now, I'm putting in the work to study for my exam and hopefully be taking the exam in the next year and hopefully be licensed in the next maybe year and a half. So I set
Absolutely.
myself on a little bit of a path to say, okay, now I have to do this. And what I took away from this whole thing is like, you love family, of course, you know what I'm saying? And, things, you can change that. But, just sometimes being able to, just stick to yourself sometime, you know? Like, so I know I didn't do anything wrong in this situation, but, like, everybody doesn't deserve your presence,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that was the
Because you
biggest
didn't
thing
have
I
to
took
go over
away.
there, but you were going to see family.
Yeah.
Maybe you're a little bit more cautious.
Yep.
Yeah.
So and that'd be another thing. Move with even more. I'm already a cautious person. I already don't try to
Yeah.
put myself in like
That's right.
difficult situations or environments, But just even now, if it's not family around, I probably don't want to really be around,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like,
Keep that circle small.
yeah, being a
Yeah.
little bit more to myself, I would say,
Yeah.
like if it's not just straight family, I really don't want to be involved,
Yeah.
So
Well, you were a great young man, and it was an honor to represent you, truly, and it was an honor to tell your story inside the courtroom, but also outside the courtroom. When we won the case, we had some um, social media postings that highlighted the fact that you were exonerated, and I thought that that was very important, because when things happen, they put your picture in the newspaper and all these online publications, and there's a jump to conclusions,
yes, sir.
and it's character assassination. And I wanted people to know who you really are, the kind of man that you are, the kind of faith that you have, and you are an example of why defense attorneys work so hard, because we see people who need us, but also people who are going to help other people along the way. And so I'm inspired by your perseverance. I'm inspired by your character. You allowed me to do my job. And I hope that we're always able to maintain a close relationship, because you're the kind of person that's going to make this world a better place.
Yes, sir. You're actually, like you said, fighting for lives and saving lives at the same time. So I definitely appreciate you and the hard work that you did put in. And it did take a lot of patience, took a lot of faith, but when you got Keith Johnson and he believes in you and you believe in him, feel like you can get to where you need to go. So I appreciate you for standing up for me and being my voice, because the biggest thing on I think the criminal justice system is not knowing the language of the criminal justice system. So like me, I know the language of business, but I don't know the language of the criminal justice system. So I hired a guy that understood and knew the language of that, so that he can be my voice. Because us as just citizens, we not informed on the ins and out of the system. You just see the highlights, where you see the ins and outs and the work and everything that's necessary to move forward. So I appreciate you and all that you do for this community.
Awesome, man. Awesome. John is an example of someone who is the future. He takes it one day at a time. He's been through a storm that not many people can describe. He's articulate, he's passionate about his family, but most importantly, he's a child of God. We saw God protecting him. We saw God guiding him even in a storm. And the weight that he had on his shoulders did not deter his faith. I hope that you can take something from this conversation, a very real conversation with a young man who did everything right for 25 years and still found himself in a jail cell for over 6 months, waiting for his first day in court. He doesn't walk around with any bitterness, any resentment, just the quiet experiences and the steel in his spine and the faith in his heart to know what he's been through and what he will accomplish. I hope you've enjoyed tuning in to this episode of The Lawyer's Lounge, where we brought you behind the scenes of the criminal justice system with the real person who's shown you what faith looks like. As always, the past is behind you. There's nothing you can do about that. Only let it guide you in your heart, knowing that what didn't kill you makes you stronger. The future belongs to the good Lord. We don't know what tomorrow brings. That's not our job. Our job is to live each and every day knowing that God holds it all together. The present is where the magic happens. It's where we're called to focus our attention to detail and do everything we can to make this a better place. Until next time, salute.